Everybody finding their seats okay? Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, hello, and welcome to the 2010 Once in a Blue Moon at High Noon, almost high noon, Hillman Award Luncheon. As I look out over the crowd here, I'm used to seeing most of you guys at this time of year in the evening. We have a little bit longer program and a lot more fun cocktailing, but today is going to be fun nonetheless. Luncheons are great. This is a wonderful format, and we're really excited about the program here today. We've got a robust agenda like we typically do even for our evening events, but this year we're going to squeeze it into 60 minutes, and I promise you we will do that. So today, as you know, the Alliance for Health and all of you here helping us are going to recognize an individual who's made an outstanding contribution to health in West Michigan. I, by the way, am Jennifer Van Sciver. I'm proud to serve as chair of the board for the Alliance for Health. And I think most of you out here know what the Alliance for Health has been up to for more than 50 years in our community. But for those of you who need a refresher course or those of you new to our program, the Alliance for Health is a broad-based community coalition that's here pretty much to do one thing, which is encourage optimal health care in our community for all our stakeholders. We want to do that by balancing the highest quality health care with the lowest possible cost, and we've been doing pretty well at it for the last 50 years. We do that pretty simply. We do it by convening all the stakeholders involved, as I just mentioned. And that's a very simple equation. It's those who use health care, it's those who pay for it, and those who provide it. We convene and facilitate discussions, we educate, we inform. That's the role of the Alliance, as it's been for more than a half century, and as we hope it will continue to be long into the future with your continued support. That mission and how it's embodied in our Hillman Award winner today, and how it is carried out each and every day by the likes of you and me, is what brings us together in celebration. And so speaking of you, as you've been seeing scrolling on the board here, I want to take just a moment to recognize our sponsors who have very generously made it possible for us to gather. So please join me just for a minute in thanking. Oh, and by the way, let's hold our applause so I can get through the list here. Our title sponsor is North Ottawa Community Health System. Our Hillman Award sponsors today are Blue Cross Blue Shield, Blue Care Network of Michigan, as well as Spectrum Health. Our presenting sponsors, St. Mary's Healthcare and Mercy Health Partners. Our corporate sponsors, Lax Enterprises, Mary Free Bed Rehabilitation Hospital, and Michigan Blood. And of course our media sponsors, our friends from the Grand Rapids Business Journal and WZZM TV 13's Healthy You. Thanks to all of you for what you've done to bring us here together today. Okay, well that is the cue to our folks to begin serving lunch. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. Like I mentioned, don't be afraid to keep eating once we start talking too. Just try not to clang too much. So we'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Shelley Yocklin, and I'm the CEO of North Ottawa Community Health System, and we are pleased to be the title sponsor of this event and to be associated with all of you who are helping to make healthcare excellent, accessible, and affordable. It is my great honor to introduce a Ford family friend to this podium to share a few words. Marty Allen is the Chairman Emeritus and Lifetime Trustee of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation, after having served as its chairman for more than 20 years. Marty is a 1958 graduate of Notre Dame, and he earned his MBA from Michigan State. I think he's one of the few who could have claimed victory either way after last Saturday's exciting game in East Lansing. Marty has received numerous honors, including commendations from the President of the United States and from the Governor of Michigan. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Marty Allen, a lifetime friend of the Alliance for Health, who will make some remarks about this afternoon's honoree.
Thank you, Shelley. If you thought the Michigan State Notre Dame game was bad. Blood runs a little deeper than water. You have to understand that. The week before, Notre Dame played Michigan. My wife is a University of Michigan graduate. If that wasn't bad enough, Steve Ford decided to take the place of his dad, who used to bet me every year on the Notre Dame Michigan game, so I had to pay him $5 this morning. So I would be remiss if I didn't introduce two people that are here when we see a film like you're going to see in other components of the Ford Museum. There's two people here that are as responsible as anybody. And one is Joe Calvaruso, who's Executive Director of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation, and Elaine Didier, who's the Director of the Ford Museum and Library. They make it happen. Jim Cannon, who is the author and longtime friend of President and Mrs. Ford, made this observation after an extended research visit to our city, and I quote, "Grand Rapids, Michigan is a place from which someone can journey far but never leave." And that's very symbolic of Mrs. Ford. When asked about her candor and openness, Betty Ford explained that it was her Midwest upbringing that shaped her values and characteristics throughout her formative years in Grand Rapids. I think you'll appreciate the impact of her Midwest demeanor when you see the video. I also like to comment on the timing of this award to Betty Ford. It couldn't be better. On Saturday is the annual, and I think it's the 13th annual, Susan G. Komen Grand Rapids Race for the Cure, which will be held here Saturday morning. This is an event dedicated to breast cancer, and there's a little story behind this that you'll see in the film. Before Susan Komen passed away at the age of 36, she asked her sister Nancy Brinker to do everything possible to bring an end to breast cancer. She formed the Susan Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. Only a few years after that, Nancy Brinker was diagnosed with breast cancer. She is a survivor. In this movie, or video that you're about to see, she is just one example of millions that had an impact from Betty Ford, and you'll see why when you see this film. The film was produced in 1996. It's one of these that you sometimes wonder if there's ever a shelf life to it. I don't think so. I think you'll see why it'll probably last for perpetuity and is part of the permanent exhibit at the Ford Museum now. So let's enjoy the video about the life and contributions to health made by our very own First Lady, Betty Ford. Thank you.
When Betty Ford was brave enough as First Lady to be able to communicate to the great American public, albeit the world, that she'd been diagnosed and treated for breast cancer, this was a revelation. It really had never happened before. And with it, she began a movement of patient empowerment, advocacy, information, and a real desire to create a prevention and a cure of this disease.
In those days, the Dark Ages, they would put you under, and then if they would do the biopsy then, and if it was cancerous, you just stayed asleep and you woke up with no breast. Or you woke up with a Band-Aid. I mean, it was, you know, you had no idea that when you came out of the anesthesia, whether you were going to have a breast or not have a breast.
She had two choices. One was to get up, go forward, face it, or languish and be ill and not be whole. And that's not Betty's personality.
She's handled everything beautifully. And I think that she's held in esteem all over the world, certainly in this country, and she deserves it.
A few years after Betty came to our first foundation event, I then developed breast cancer because I was sitting in my hospital bed feeling very sorry for myself, wondering how in the world this could have happened to me. after all of this and starting this foundation and knowing as much as I did about it. And I picked up the phone, and there was Betty Ford. And she said to me, take one day at a time. You know, you can feel bad for yourself. You can let out all of your emotions, be angry, feel sorry for yourself. And then tomorrow, get up, you know, put a smile on your face. Think about all of the work you have to do. And you will survive, and take one day at a time.
There's something in the Bible about the valiant woman, isn't it? I think she meets all of those requisites to be a valiant woman. And I think that's what, as people learn more about her, that's what they'll see.
Her total dedication to openness, frankness, her real strong belief in equal rights for women, her handling of her breast cancer surgery, her forthrightness in dealing with her chemical dependency and addiction. Those are strong character evidences of a lady that I tremendously admire.
One of the ways history will treat Mrs. Ford is as the standard bearer for women's health.
And she shares her recovery with all the people that come in here, and particularly people who are having a particular tough time, especially women.
Well, there's nothing like experience.
I think she wanted a little softer approach, and it was more like, how can we do this but still have the same basics involved in recovery and treatment?
Over 30 cities in Canada and the United States have offered to build similar centers. Call it Betty Ford Center, Denver, or wherever. Mrs. Ford has said no to every one of those requests. And it's primarily because if her name's going to be on the center, she's going to be involved.
Oh, I think Mother gets a lot back from working on these issues, and if anything, she gets so much back that she wants to do more.
She does this by, testifying in front of Congress, in front of the Senate. She does it on state levels by appearing in front of state legislatures.
I love her. I think she loves me.
Betty has been one of the real trailblazers to demonstrate how to live a really successful life as a woman with many, many roles to fill.
She is a great mother. She's been a great grandmother.
I'm very proud of what Betty has done during her lifetime, and I'm very thankful that we've had a wonderful marriage for almost half a century.
It's really something, isn't it? Well, now we're moving on to our award presentation. The Alliance for Health Hillman Award originated in 2005 and is named in memory of U.S. District Judge Douglas W. Hillman. Many of you remember Judge Hillman. He was a lifelong community health care advocate and gave decades of service to the Alliance for Health. And this honor really exemplifies what he did and what he believed. He deeply believed in the power of people getting together face to face to tackle tough issues and improve West Michigan's healthcare system in doing so. Simply put, what this award recognizes is visionaries. And such a person was Betty Ford. Her healthcare struggles became what parents like myself call teachable moments. Except for, this wasn't just a teachable moment for her family and close friends. This is something that she used to teach the nation, the globe. She met her healthcare challenges head-on, and then she continued the fight long past her personal victories so that she could help others achieve the same success that she did. Just weeks after entering the White House as First Lady in 1974, Betty was diagnosed with malignant breast cancer. She underwent a mastectomy, and her openness about that raised visibility for a disease that Americans previously were reluctant to discuss on any level. She later went on to help establish the Betty Ford breast care services in Grand Rapids, including the Betty Ford Diagnostic Breast Center, which is at Spectrum Health's Lemmen-Holton Cancer Pavilion to this day. Each year, and here's some interesting, sobering statistics, each year, the Betty Ford Breast Care Services Program here in Grand Rapids performs 50,000 mammograms, 45,000 computer-aided detections, nearly 2,000 minimally invasive biopsies, and about 9,000 other diagnostic procedures. I think we should clap for that, because that's something. Really something. And let me tell you, personally speaking, from the perspective of a then teenage daughter 20 years ago whose mother was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, detected by a mammogram at Betty Ford, I can't express how grateful I am, how grateful we all are who share similar stories for this gift in our community. But her gifts go on. Betty impressed the world yet again in 1978 when she spoke with great candor about her struggles with alcohol and painkillers. She received help, but there again, she didn't stop with that. Her efforts led to the establishment of the Betty Ford Center in Rancho Mirage, California, which provides treatment and counseling to those suffering from dependencies. There, more than 90,000 men and women have been assisted by that center since 1982. Thank you, Betty. You know, that truly is the message today. Thank you. Thank you, Betty, for your courage. Thank you for speaking out. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for your tireless efforts to help others not only face their challenges, but achieve victory just like you did. Thank you for being a friend to this region and contributing so much to our personal well-being here in Grand Rapids and in West Michigan. And finally, thank you for being an inspiration to your hometown and to the world. Accepting the award this afternoon on behalf of his mother is Stephen Ford. Stephen has enjoyed a successful acting career with more than 30 films and numerous guest lead appearances in television. I'll name drop just a second if you'll permit me. Stephen has appeared in such movies as the movie Contact with Jodie Foster. How about this? Bruce Willis in Armageddon. And Al Pacino in the movie Heat. That's not a bad roster, and the list really does go on. But he also tours the country as a motivational speaker for corporations and organizations just like ours here today. And there he speaks on topics such as leadership and, like his mom, about personal triumph. He currently serves on the board of the President Gerald R. Ford Museum and is also chair of the board for the Ford Presidential Foundation. Speaking of the museum, in October they're going to be launching a very special exhibit featuring his mother. So a quick plug for that. Please join me with a warm hometown welcome for Steve Ford.
Thank you. Wow, so much. I told Mom I was coming back here, and she was excited to think, and I'd share stories with Marty and others around here this morning before the luncheon. How two of the darkest moments in Mom's life, in our family's life, when Mom found out she had cancer. Dad had just become president, was 3 or 4 weeks into his administration. Country was in a crisis. You had Watergate, you had Vietnam War, you had a Cold War with the Russians, inflation was about 14%, unemployment was about 9 or 10%, and here his wife, Betty, comes down with breast cancer. It was a dark moment, and the stigma that was on that disease at that time was tremendous. And then years later, after they got out of the White House, Mom again tackled another disease, and that was the disease of alcoholism. And to sit here today and accept this award for her service, for how she took 2 of those darkest days in her life and had something good come out the other side. It's an amazing, amazing story. We're so proud of Mom. I saw the film there, and I'm going to get off track here for just a second. Dad talked about how independent Mom was in her thinking and what she did and how she took things on. I remember he talked about the Equal Rights Amendment for women, and Mother was a champion of that, and not that Dad's administration was appreciating all the attention she was bringing to the issue. And I'll never forget, after Dad got shot at, 2 assassination attempts on Dad's life. The first one, Squeaky Fromme, the Charles Manson family, and what a fine family that was. And Squeaky Fromme, got the gun out, tried to shoot Dad. It was stopped. 2 weeks later, in California, Sarah Jane Moore also shot a gun at Dad and tried to assassinate him. But I'll never forget the moment when we were waiting at home for Dad to come home from that trip, and we heard about it, seen it on the news. The Secret Service had informed us of what had happened. And Mom encouraged us to put these smiling faces on when Dad stepped off the second-floor elevator at the White House, to act like nothing had happened. And, asked Dad how work was that day, and he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and we weren't going to burden him with our fears. And Dad stepped off the elevator, and there was this ice-cold chill in the room. As much as we were trying to smile and act like nothing was going on, everybody had tears in their eyes. And my dad always knew the perfect thing to say. And like I say, Mom was so big with the Equal Rights Amendment for women. And he looked at my mother, and he says, "Betty, those dang women are lousy shots." And it was perfect. It just broke the ice, and things went on. But I look back on how God took 2 darkest moments in Mom's life. And I'll never forget my parents standing on the front lawn of the White House, holding hands and saying, "We're going to take the stigma off this disease." And at that point, breast cancer for women was a closet disease. They didn't talk about it. And here the First Lady of the country was going to be transparent and show that women didn't need to be ashamed of this. And then years later, she did the same thing with alcoholism. And again, Dad stood right there with her. And I remember going in and doing the intervention that morning with Mom for her alcoholism. And at that time, we hadn't even heard the word intervention. That was a cutting-edge new technique they were doing with alcoholism. Today, they have shows on interventions. We've come a long ways. But I'll never forget that moment either of Dad sitting down, leading the family, taking Mom's hand, and saying, "Mom, we love you. I want my wife back. The kids want their mother back. We want you healthy." And we didn't do the work. It was Mom. We just woke her up. And again, she took a big subject with a lot of stigma on it and did the work and came out the other side helping a lot of people. So it affects all of us. Everybody has a story about cancer in their family, alcoholism. It's very personal to me. I remember, you would think Betty Ford's son would know better, but 10 years after my mom got sober, I had to walk in and raise my hand and say, "My name is Steve, I'm an alcoholic." And, I stand here today to the grace of God and the good 12-step program, leadership of Mom, 18 years of sobriety, but I look back and I thank her for my sobriety. And just to let you know, our family is no different than yours. When I went and told my mom I thought I was an alcoholic, she was just like every other mother in the country. She goes, "Oh no, my son can't be an alcoholic, you can't be an alcoholic." And I said, "Mom, wait a second, stop. You can't be in denial, you're like Betty Ford, You're the poster child for this thing, And our family was just like yours, and we went through so many of the same things. But I stand here today and accept this award from Mom. It's very personal to our family. She is very grateful that you're honoring her service of what she was able to do to help others. I can tell you that when she got cancer or when she went through alcoholism, there was never a thought that on the other end of it was going to be a thing called the Betty Ford Center or a cancer treatment. It was we were just trying to get our mom well. So I stand here today, I accept this in Mom's name. She'll be so pleased. And she just loves Grand Rapids. She loves Western Michigan, and it's meant a lot to our family. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for sharing so many of your intimate family moments with us. I think it's one of the things that really makes so many of us feel like you are a part of Grand Rapids and that we are a part of your family as well. So thank you so very, very much. My name is Valerie Lego, and I'm with WZZM 13, and I am the host of Healthy You and one of the media sponsors for today. And the other media sponsored is Cara Valade of the Grand Rapids Business Journal. We just have a few tiny little things to share with you before we wrap up this wonderful luncheon today. First, we'd like to take this opportunity to announce a new awards program being launched at the Alliance for Health. West Michigan salutes Health Heroes. It's going to recognize the wonderful contributors who help West Michigan achieve excellence, access, and affordability in health care. A new evening of awards will recognize our heroes for their advocacy and action in a number of categories nominated by their peers in West Michigan health community. The nominations will be including such things as physician specialist, physician primary care, nurse, researcher, administration, trustee, volunteer, and communicator. So, this is the date that you need to save on your calendars. It's January 26th, because we're getting together at Eastern Floro's Binggoe International Center for Excellence to celebrate the winners of these categories, and we want to especially thank Bing for his generous donation of the facility. And now for Carol.
Even as we're celebrating today, I'm here to remind everyone that for better or worse, the United States has a new health law that will affect all citizens, delivery systems, and the way that we use medical care. Certainly much time, political and intellectual rhetoric, and money has been spent in debating what is wrong and how hard it will be to make change. To take advantage of current developments and to forge a more rational and efficient delivery system, the Alliance for Health is embarking on a new venture to examine the health reform law and design a community-wide system that is fair. The Alliance is just that, a long-standing, nonprofit, independent alliance created by the participation of healthcare providers with business community leaders in partnership. Through the venture, the Alliance hopes to identify the elements of health reform that will directly affect this community and over which it has control. Determine what community cooperation will be essential to effect desired change. Hold community forums to solicit advice and input. Determine new delivery system concepts. Through the establishment of this Alliance for Health venture, it is the Alliance goal to design a high-quality medical delivery system for all of Western Michigan that is efficient, effective, and accessible. West Michigan is on the national health map. The Alliance has been honored as a chartered value exchange by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Alliance received the prestigious Aligning Forces for Quality Award from the Robert Wood Foundation, Johnson Foundation. The eyes of the nation are on Western Michigan and all 12 counties covered by the Alliance, and we want to be leading the way increasing healthcare value can happen. And now I'm going to leave questions with Lodi.
Thank you, Carol. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. We were thrilled that we could honor Betty Ford today. She exemplifies everything in pursuing excellence and accessibility that the Alliance for Health has worked for years. We believe that if we can talk about issues, we can solve them. Just that simple. We bring people together to talk about them. Betty Ford found a way to bring issues out that people wouldn't talk about, allowed us to talk about it, and we are doing things. If you could compare the care at the time, as Steve pointed out, it's radically changed. This morning, I was badgered at breakfast. Many of you know Walt McVeigh. I don't know how many of you know that for 40 years he's been an educator for the Cancer Society. Came to me and just said, "Thank you for honoring Betty Ford. She made my job easier because nobody would talk about it." It's just that simple. If we can talk about things, we can address them, we can solve them. Although she couldn't be here in person, as you know, we're videotaping today's program, and she will be viewing that. And Mrs. Ford, we sincerely thank you. We're also, as Carol said, excited to announce the West Michigan Salutes Health Heroes programs, because we know that there are amazing feats that are being performed daily in all walks of healthcare that help make our community what it is. We're ready to launch our Rethink Healthy Expo, continue our work of building bridges and making connections here in West Michigan. We've always had a great spirit of participation and partnership here in West Michigan, which is what makes the Alliance for Health a special organization. But we don't take that for granted, and we'll continue to work very hard to make West Michigan a healthcare beacon that all can see. Many thanks go today to Marty Allen, Joe Calvaruso, Elaine Didier, and the members of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation and the museum staff. Your help made today possible. Thank you very much. But thank you all for coming. I wish you health. I wish you happiness for all of you. We sincerely appreciate your support of the Alliance for Health in the way of participation and financial contributions. For over 60 years, the Alliance has existed on goodwill offerings. No set amounts. We ask people to help contribute, keep the agency going based on what you believe it's worth to you and to our community. It's a long track record of existence even in that regard. You make it all happen. We are a nonprofit organization in these challenging times, so obviously all donations are appreciated. We appreciate your support today. We hope it'll continue, and as one last announcement, you can even help in another way. You see the beautiful centerpieces on the table. Take them, drop something in the basket out at the door. The donations will help the Alliance, but thank you all for coming. It's a sincere thanks to all of you, and Betty Ford, thanks again.